Good morning, everybody. It's a rainy, little bit wet morning here in Punta Arenas, and we're going to hop a catamaran shortly and go visit a colony of Magellanic Penguins. So stay tuned on this episode of Traveling with the Doobies Hits Patagonia. This morning, we, along with about half of the travelers on Seabourn Pursuit, are set to go see the penguin sanctuary on Isla Magdalena, which sits a little more than an hour away by boat north of Punta Arenas in the Straits of Magellan. We had been warned by the expedition team that this tour is often canceled, about 40% of the time in fact, due to rough seas and bad weather. Well, it's a little hard to believe weather could be worse than this morning, as we have a steady 30-mile-an-hour wind gusting to 40 and stinging blowing rain. Still, as we all lined up in the port building, it looked like everything was a go. The tour is scheduled for 5 hours to account for variable travel times, and as we pull away from the dock, the crew comes on the PA to let us know the snack bar is open. There are 3 restrooms on board, which is important because there are none on the island. If we want to stand along the railing, we need to wear a life jacket. Oh, and yeah, we are motoring into the wind this morning, so it's going to be quite rough, and well, yeah, it's Patagonia, and it is what it is. They also let us know if we did begin to feel ill to raise your hand and a crew member would attend to you. It was at that moment I really hoped Donna Doobie had her patch on and didn't listen to her idiot roommate about how the seas and the channels are no big deal. Please, 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 please. On the boat, we split up. Donna does not like to sit facing backwards on moving vehicles, and I wanted a window seat, and since we were the last group on board, only backward-facing window seats were left. C'est la vie. Along with the tour boat guides, about half of the expedition team was joining us this morning, and as we left the sheltered pier at Punta Arenas, the crew even brought around a snack pack with bottled water, juice, a sandwich, and some sweet treats. But as the boat began slamming against the oncoming waves, for some reason no one felt like eating. About 15 minutes into the journey, first hand started to go up as the morning big breakfast at the colonnade wanted to reappear, and about 20 or so of our fellow travelers were feeling pretty bad. It was a good time to fix the gaze outside on the waves. No way I'm turning around. Turns out it was a great strategy anyhow, as just out to the port side and dwarfed by the waves, we got sight of dolphins. Right out here. Dolphins! Oh. We have dolphins! Peale's dolphins, to be precise. These small and stout dolphins usually travel in small pods and are perfectly adapted for feeding in the thick kelp beds of Patagonia. We saw 2 small pods about 15 minutes apart from one another out here in the straits, and were treated to a show as they leaped among and above the turbulent seas. As the island started to come into view, we started to encounter more wildlife. Seabirds started to thicken, a southern sea lion swam up to the boat and then disappeared, and a common dolphin came up for air alongside. This would have been a great approach to be out on the rail on one of those less typical Patagonian weather days. What is very apparent is there's not a lot of shelter or windbreaks on this little island. Time to try and seal all the cracks in our layers. But what was also clear, we're going to see penguins this morning. Los Pingüinos Natural Monument was officially established as a natural monument in 1986 and is the home of around 60,000 Magellanic penguins. This time of year, however, only the breeding pairs remain on the island as the chicks have been fully fledged, molted into their seaworthy feathers, and headed out to sea. On average, Magellanic penguins will breed at 4 to 5 years, so we can only imagine this year's brood enjoying that single life.
We will start this way, okay? In the next 30 minutes we should be by the lighthouse. Then we continue walking, we never go back. It's like a big circle. You must follow my colleague Javier, nobody can be ahead of Javier, okay? Welcome to Magdalena Island, enjoy this place.
Within another week or two, all these penguins will be gone to sea for the winter, and as we peek into the burrows, we see a lot of the adults have become their catastrophic molt. Unlike the Antarctic species, Magellanic penguins create burrows for nesting and shelter, and based on today's weather, I'm inclined to crawl in one myself. They will line the burrows with grasses for insulation, and while the burrows provide safety from most of the elements and skua attacks from above, if heavy rain hits at the wrong time, flooding can cause chicks to become hypothermic and die. I get that. Magellanic penguins are about halfway up the penguin size scale, a little smaller than the macaroni penguin, but significantly bigger than the Galapagos penguins we have seen. As we approach the lighthouse, we look forward to getting a few minutes out of the blowing snowish sleet rain and drying off some of the camera gear. I think we were warmer in a snowstorm in Antarctica. The lighthouse is home to exhibits about the wildlife in these waters, and even home to a small chapel. A group of mostly orange-clad penguins begrudgingly start to leave the shelter of the lighthouse, and the rain seems to be letting up some. We see a few upland geese foraging on the hillside amongst the penguins. Surprisingly, these geese aren't. They are technically sledge geese or sledge ducks, more closely related to ducks. So, duck, duck, sledge geese. Magellanic penguins, along with the South African penguin and Humboldt penguins, are also known as Jackass penguins. Oh, I thought they were just bad tippers or something. Lo siento. Walking back to the beach, we see penguins engaging in social behavior, ducking in and out of burrows, and some grabbing tufts of grass needed to stay warm as they begin to molt. And if you hadn't figured it out yet, this is the Magellanic Penguins Island. They get full right-of-way. A little drenching cold air and a penguin colony that didn't leave the lingering smell of guano in your sinuses was good for everybody's spirits. And even better news, the trip back was with the sea and the wind on our backs, which helped not only with the speed of our return, but also with the violent up and down motion that had so many people sick. So there was lively conversation to be had. Was it about penguins? The dolphins we had seen? The wicked winds lurking out in the Pacific? Nope. All our attention turned to whether one of our tour boat crew looked like Timothy Chalamet, and was he single? Had he been to the States, Australia, Canada? And I have a daughter, granddaughter, niece about your age. Now I'm getting queasy. Back on Pursuit, we jam all the wet clothes into the drying closet, and Donna Doobie heads to use my free massage. So, perfect time for me to switch into my other rain gear, and let's go explore Punta Arenas a bit. Since we have tonight and tomorrow morning to explore the town, let's take a look at Punta Arenas Day 1 versus Day 2 and some of the areas around town. No idea if these cuts will work, but let's go check out the town. The history of both world circumnavigation and Antarctic exploration cannot be told without this exact spot in South America. By the time that names like de Gerlache, Scott, Charcot, Shackleton, Pardo, Bird, and Rona were setting sail southward, the city of Punta Arenas was already a well-established supply point for vessels transiting the oceans long before there was a Panama Canal. Heading left out of the port, there are monuments/scrap from the industrial side of Punta Arenas, mining, ship repair, and the like. And off ahead in the distance, a rusting old ship along the shore gets my attention. Look at this, I think our new target here. It's kind of towards that, it looks like a wrecked ship or something, but maybe a pier. So let's wander that way. Along the path, it's also apparent that the variety of seabird life abounds along these rich cold water shores. Various gull species, ducks, and sledge geese, and not sure what family this bird, who seems to prefer the ground, belongs to. No, it's gonna let me go by. Wow. On the morning of day 2, those birds had disappeared, but we did get some good pictures of the oyster catchers on this blustery morning. And Donna, Doobie, and Tom are out with us to explore the town this morning. Back to the search for that ship, we passed Chilean naval operations and barracks, and the most striking thing about this walk along the highway, I don't think there's a speed limit in southern Chile. Wow, people drive fast. So it turns out there are several big ships at what appears to be a salvage operation. Okay, so I think in classic Doobie Death March fashion, the monuments we were after are probably the other way. Yeah, I think it's a cool ship. The gate kind of there. Probably shouldn't go explore. My Spanish is better, I probably would. Daring to cross the street coming back to town, we find 3 statues. And then a Mahatma Gandhi. And Mother Teresa here. Turns out I've stumbled across the southernmost Hindu temple in the world. A couple of blocks past the auto repair shops is a small shopping district.
Ancestral medicine.
Huh.
Can we get our ills taken care of?
Anything good, Donna and Tom? Pop into this shop and had some very nice alpaca pieces, so we did a little gift shopping. The display above the cases shows the various forms of native dress for the peoples that used to populate Patagonia and Tierra del Fuego. Nearing the center of town, the architecture looks familiar, like Victorian gold rush towns, and there's a reason. Punta Arenas started similarly to Ushuaia. The remote and harsh conditions in Punta Arenas made a great place to put a penal colony, and a prison was established in 1848. But a boom was waiting literally just around the corner when gold was discovered in the California foothills. Clipper ships full of fortune seekers passed through a now growing maritime hub. Shipwrights, wholesale suppliers, and bankers all built up this safe harbor gateway to the Pacific Ocean. Some, however, found their treasure right here, as we will see. In the center of the town plaza, hey, that's Magellan. I wonder what the story is with the foot being rubbed, but that's kind of cool. Okay, here's the toe. Everybody has to touch the toe.
Okay.
Unless you wanted to kiss it, then you could kiss it. All right, Tom's good for safe travels. Donna Doobie's good for safe travels. Kiss the toe. And we're here. We're at the toe, so we're guaranteed safe travels. So it turns out it's good travelers' luck to touch, caress, or even kiss the foot of the native South American representing Tierra del Fuego. Good health and smooth seas for this traveling clan. On the south side of the main plaza, there are small shop kiosks overlooking the mansion of Sara Braun. Originally born under the Russian Empire, Sara's family fled persecution due to their Jewish faith. She eventually married Portuguese shipping magnate José Nogueira, and upon his death in 1893, took over the company and created a monopoly on the sheep trade in this area. She is credited with many charitable efforts, but there are also reports of playing a role in the genocide of indigenous people. The mark on the city architecturally is stunning. Heading down to the waterfront, there is a fantastic pedestrian and runner-friendly paved pathway going from the north of the port. Along this promenade, there are fascinating monuments to the history of Chile and exploration that emanated from Punta Arenas. Now this is quite striking. My favorite is Monumento a Tripulantes Galeta Ancud. Inaugurated in 2014, the monument commemorates the effective taking of the Straits of Magellan by Chile in 1843, when the schooner Ancud landed on these shores. Amongst the captain and crew are also mythological beasts representing the Chiloe culture. So we're a little more than a third of the way through this adventure. Seems like a good time to reflect on what we've seen so far. Doobie? Well, it really is quite a fascinating little waterfront, and so far we're not even halfway through the trip. And let's see what we've seen. We've seen elephant seals, glaciers. We've seen the South American sea lion this morning. We saw Peale's dolphins, Magellanic penguins, of course, and there's a huge colony of the rock shags that we'll take a look at, and some wonderful history and artwork in these sites. So things are looking good this trip with the Doobies. Coming back toward the port, it's an obligation to stop at the Costanera and the Punta Arenas sign. On the old decrepit dock in the evening of day one, there are loads of cormorants, which, by next morning, they must be all out fishing along the shoreline. Another striking monument is dedicated to Luis Alberto Pardo, captain of the Yelcho, who commanded the effort to rescue Ernest Shackleton's stranded crew in August of 1916 from Elephant Island off the Antarctic Peninsula. For his efforts, the British authorized a hefty reward, which Pardo politely refused. He stated he was simply following a mission assigned to him by the Chilean Navy. But if you ever get to Elephant Island, note the highest point on the island is named Pardo Ridge. Somehow, we have run out of time in Punta Arenas. As we head back to the Pursuit this afternoon, we'll make one more push to the south before heading north from now on along the Pacific coast. What's next? Well, you'll have to tune in next time as we make our way to Fjord of the Mountains and beyond.